New tonight at 6, a family grieving and now suing over a man's death at Naval Base Guantanamo Bay. The family of Christopher Turr today serving a civil suit against Turr's ex-wife. A former spokesperson at Gitmo and the base's ex-commander, Captain John Nettleton. The family claims the defendant's actions caused the wrongful death of her and conspired to cover up events surrounding his mysterious drowning. First Coast News spoke with his brother Michael about this new lawsuit.
Well, we loved him, and we're very protective of one another. And justice has not been truly served, not by John Nettleton, and not by others that were directly or indirectly involved. And they need to be held accountable.
Nettleton was never charged in Turr's death, but is serving a 2-year prison sentence for lying to investigators and also obstructing justice.